Now, let's get into all this in the day's news with Sky News contributor Sam Crosby. Great to have you here at the desk. And National Senator Matt Canavan. Welcome to you both. Something for both parties in the latest news poll. Labor have the important two-party preferred lead, 51-49, but the coalition has taken the lead in New South Wales, which is important for their re-election efforts. Matt Canavan, tell me, who is the happier party right now looking at these poll results?
Well, look, I think the Labor Party, the first-term Labor government, has to be nervous. As you say, the coalition's not in the lead in the polls, but it's very, very close. And for any first-term opposition, that gives you a bit of hunger. There's a lot of unity on our side of politics. We've got, a leader that's taken an ambitious agenda on nuclear energy in particular. So there's something to drive for and pursue here. And certainly this next election is very close, and it could be anyone's for the taking. So I think that gives the opposition some hope here. And it is a bit unusual just 2 years in a government for it to be so close at this stage. It's closer than it was in Rudd's first term at this stage. It got much closer into the election then. And so, you've got to look at why that's the case. And I went back and read Anthony Albanese's victory speech in preparation for this evening. And, he made a few promises there, none of which basically have come true. He promised to end the climate wars. We're still arguing about energy because he hasn't delivered his $275 cut to power prices. He promised a voice, obviously, a complete and abject failure. He promised even to strengthen Medicare, but bulk billing rates are at record lows. He did talk a lot about the fact he came from public housing, but, I don't think many people thought that the promise was that people would be forced into public housing or no housing thanks to his government. I don't think they count that one as a promise kept.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Now, Sam, one of the things that strikes me about these poll results is that they come on the back of weeks when Labor has been forced to talk about themselves, and they have all of these things out there, that they're trying to sell to people, but it seems like no one seems to care about the much-hyped Stage 3 tax cuts. Can we get our money back, please, on all those ads they sold us? Hey, you're getting the tax cut, and thank you, Labor, for all of that. But, it seems like they're talking too much about themselves and not enough about what people are going through.
Look, quite possibly. I think that's one of the reasons that the Prime Minister was so annoyed at the Senator Payman's, distraction in the news, right at the point that we were talking about the Stage 3 tax cuts. We ended up having to talk for days and weeks now about, the potential new party and an independent senator and all the rest of it. I think, to be fair, I think Matt's right. I think this is a poll that will make a number of people in the government nervous. There is some good news in there for Labor. Albo is still the preferred Prime Minister everywhere but Queensland. Now, that's a problem because there's a couple of seats that we need to hold on to in Queensland that are under threat. But I think they will take some comfort in being ahead of all those other states and quite comfortably. But look, to Matt's point about first-term governments, you go back to Bob Hawke, 84, John Howard in 96, Kevin Rudd / Julie Gillard, 2011, and then Malcolm Turnbull, 2016. First-term governments are normally pretty bad at getting re-elected that first time. It's normally a lot closer when the reality sinks home to people. They've tossed the old government out, the new government comes in, and the sun comes up and it's the same old country and things are hard to change. So traditionally, first-term governments don't go that well.
Yeah, no, look, that's fair, Sam, but I just wanted to follow up. Matt, what's that, Matt?
Well, I was just going to say that I think the difference here is, one, this has been close now for a while. It often gets close to the election, which I mentioned Kevin Rudd's situation had, and Bob Hawke wasn't close until he called the election. He called it a bit early, and people seem to take affront at that. But the other issue here is that the Anthony Albanese government only has a couple of seat majority. They only came to government with a one-seat majority, have won a by-election since. But no, those other governments, the first-term governments, have tended to have a bit more of a buffer. So I think that's why the government will be quite nervous here. They kind of need to win seats somewhere to stay in the majority because you're always going to lose some.
That's an interesting point. And Sam, one of the things that I'm curious about too is the drift that we see now to the left with the Greens. You've got the 18 to 34s, 18 to 35s shifting massively now to the Greens. That's got to be a big concern because you're going to start to pull the party apart at both ends here if you're not careful.
Yeah, look, this is something that the Labor Party's been struggling with for 20-something years now. We don't have a good answer for it yet. You know, we play whack-a-mole. The problem is that when the Greens win lower house seats, they tend to be pretty hard to extract from them. And I think the truth is we haven't got a great answer for how we deal with them. I think facing up to the core issues that attract Greens voters, like climate change, like housing more and more. I think it's moved away from refugee and climate change now. I think it's gone to housing. I think that's got to be the answer. Actually dealing with not the political policies and the bubble or the noise and the politics, but actually figuring out how do we get that generation of Australians into their own homes, if not to own.
I think, Sam, you have hit on something there. You said just a moment ago the shift has been from climate and all of that, which are fairly conceptual issues, to housing, which is a real thing. I think the first side of politics that solves this housing issue gives young people a chance onto the housing ladder. They will lock in a generation. That's just my thought, but who listens to me?